So, good afternoon and welcome. Today, I will talk about the past, the present, and most importantly, the future of the Chin theme. Earlier in the Dries node, you saw the future of Drupal, which is very exciting to me. And I will show you now the future of the Chin theme. And I hope you will also get some excitement out of this talk as well. So my name is Sascha Eckenberger, and I'm a senior UX designer at the Swiss-based agency called Unique. I'm the creator of the Chin theme, and I'm also a design maintainer of Claro. You can find me with the handle at Sascha Ecke on this thing called internet all over the place. And let's move on to the agenda. So without any surprise, I will talk about these three main topics today. The past. So I will briefly talk about Chin's history, where it originates and what's the story behind it. The present. So what's the current state of Chin? The future. Eventually, we will talk about where do we want to go with Chin and what can you expect in the near or distant future of it. And last but not least, we have some Q&A. So let's get started, shall we? Moving on to the past. So let's talk a tiny bit about the history of the Chin theme. Am I on mute so you can't hear me? Good. Okay, then I will continue. So back in 2019, the Chin theme was born. Chin started as a customization layer for Claro, and people back then called it just a sub-theme of Claro. I'm doing some air quotes here, but they were right back then. So it was really just a sub-theme of Claro. It was initially created for branding purposes for specific clients we had at Unique, and there was no way back then to theme the UI without sub-theming an admin theme. And you all know that sub-theming an admin theme is very, very a terrible thing to do because you need to override all the libraries that the base admin theme extends. So there's a lot of nitty things going on there. And I wanted to change that. So back then in the beginning, Chin looked like this. It looks very familiar, doesn't it? Actually, it looks exactly the same as Claro, because it was based on Claro and it's still based on Claro, but it had two nifty differences. The first being a styled toolbar, which Claro still misses, by the way, due to some core things we need to fix. And secondly, color schemes. So this was possible with the first release of Chin. So the only thing actually you could change was the primary color. And that was basically the whole customization options in the beginning. So little baby footsteps into the mere customization options we have currently available today in Chin. Then came Drupal 8.8, and a lot of changes were introduced from 8.7 to 8.8, and one being, or the most significant being, Claro added to core. So with Claro started as a contrib theme and then moved into core with and shipped with 8.8, all the dependencies for Chin were basically broken. So what was the reason for that? Because I mentioned earlier that you have to extend all the libraries of the base theme. So we created the 2.x branch to be compatible with Drupal 8.8 onwards. Then later in 2019, the infamous DrupalCon Amsterdam happened. Can you actually remember that? That was like the last in-person Drupal event I've attended. It's been a while, and I hope we can move back to that rather soon. Anyway, so we, the design team behind Claro, showcased the design system and like its first fruit out of it, which is called Claro, in this particular talk. But we also decided to showcase our vision of what the future of Drupal potentially could look like. And it looked like this. So the concept included a sidebar navigation, like a vertical navigation approach, a sticky header region with call to actions, structured content, but it does look a bit familiar, doesn't it? We eventually also showcase the dark mode. I think you get it where I want to go, right? I also got a lot of messages all over the place from people that they essentially need this dark mode. But yes, I'm also a huge fan of dark modes, so I decided to start working on one. Then in 2020, which was, by the way, a very strange year, but it was a big year for Chin because, you know, the following happened. I think you guessed it, COVID-19 hit the world. It hit Europe hard, and we were in a lockdown here. So, but on the good side of things, I finally had more time, actually way more time to contribute while staying at home all the time. I spent most of my leisure time in 2020 actually working on creating the Chin 3x branch, like the Chin admin theme as you know it today. So in that matter, for everybody who uses Chin already, COVID-19 actually had a very good side effect, right? This is a screenshot of the very early days into the 3x development, but it already looks very familiar with the current state we're in, right? There were some differences in colors, and like the vertical navigation approach is a bit different now, but it really had like all those patterns we use today as well. And we finally arrive in 2021. So in 2021, the adoption of the Chin theme skyrocketed. So more people got involved and started contributing to it, which is a very good thing. Thank you for that. I also got more sponsors to help me out to dedicate more time to this project, which is also a very good thing. And thank you to all the sponsors. And a lot of agencies and distributions, for that matter, adapted Chin as their primary admin theme, which is really, really cool. With that said, we're already landing in the present. So what is the current state of Chin as of today? Let's first dive into some features Chin has. So what makes it so different compared to all the other Drupal admin themes? Well, the main differentiation being the strong focus on the editorial experience, but also to the new concepts we try out and integrate, like the tons of settings and features the Chin admin theme has. It also evolved into kind of an ecosystem, but more to that part later. So here's a screenshot of how the editorial experience looked like in Chin. It has a very clean interface. The main visual differences being having a real sidebar, and also in this particular screenshot, having like the vertical navigation. It also has like a sticky region where like things like the save button and other actions belong. So if you have a very long node form and you're at the end of it, you always have like these actions on hand and you don't need to scroll to the top. Sounds very, very, very basic, but it makes a huge impact for content editors in their life. But I won't go into details here. So I think to summarize, it's just like the small things that count, right? It's also worth mentioning that we did a lot of user testing to come up for several different parts of the UI for Chin. And this one is no exception. So there were a lot of testing going on for the node edit form. And oh, by the way, if you want to know which module we're using here for paragraphs, it's the layout paragraphs module, just if somebody comes up with that question, for that matter. Moving on, like the ability to customize the experience for your client's needs is another huge aspect of the Chin admin theme. So what I mean by that is the ability to brand Drupal for your clients or for your DXP for that matter. So changing things like the logo, the colors, like the accent color, everything is a setting in Chin. So it's very, very easy to adapt to a branding or to your own branding. Here is an example. So The goal is to make the experience your client's experience. So as I mentioned before, it's very helpful for DXPs or for any distribution out there for that matter. So in this screenshot, you can see a client of Unique where we have like customized the UI a bit. And there were basically just 3 things applied here. So we used the minimal toolbar. We used the main brand color of the client as the accent color, and we used their logo. So it's nothing special, but it makes a huge difference in appearance, right? And it only took me like 5 minutes to do so. So it's a very easy and short task to customize the experience. On this particular screenshot, you can see the Chin settings. So to summarize some of the options Chin has, or the most important ones are, you have 3 different toolbar options. So the default one being the vertical navigation approach you see here. And then we have the minimal horizontal toolbar you saw in the previous screenshot. And then we have the classic Drupal toolbar, which I call the legacy toolbar. You can adjust the accent color from some accessibility safe predefined colors. You see them on the screenshot. Or you can set your own one, if you like, to really adjust the color to the brand. And we also have an experimental dark mode, which is already working pretty well, even if it's called experimental or beta. And more settings include like accessibility stuff, like a high contrast mode for better contrasts. So user settings are also something. So we can go even further and enable user settings or user overrides for settings in Chin, as some of these settings are very user specific. So users can set their preferences, like enabling the dark mode or a high contrast mode. So these settings might not be like global settings, or you can you can set them as your main settings in Chin. So they would be taken over to the user settings as default. And then the user can customize his or her experience to make it their own. And talking about dark mode, I also have a screenshot how that looks. So yeah, boom, there you have it, Drupal with a dark mode. If all the settings that Chin provides are still not enough for your needs to customize the experience, we also have a built-in way, which is called like the Chin custom CSS, to do even more overrides without having the need to sub-theme. I think that this is a very important thing, because usually you just want to do some small changes. Maybe you want to reduce shadows or like to move things around. And you don't have to sub-theme for these little changes. You can just use the Chin custom CSS for that matter. Good. Moving on to the ecosystem. So as I mentioned earlier before, I see Chin not just as an admin theme. I see the whole thing as an ecosystem. So there are some very helpful modules in the ecosystem to provide you with an even better user experience. And one of them being, of course, the Chin toolbar. So this is a required, or most likely a required module, because we hit the limitation what the Drupal admin theme actually can do quite often. So there are a lot of technical boundaries we face, and therefore we need to integrate certain features through this helper module. This module also helps you to bring like all the customizations you saw into your front-end theme. So let's say you're logged in as an editor in the front end, and if you install the Chin theme, you would just see like the regular Drupal toolbar. If you install Chin toolbar, this will hook into the front-end theme, as long as you're logged in, of course, to bring all the customizations to the front end as well, that you have like this seamless experience from inline editing to the backend. Then we have the Chin login module, which integrates with all the customizations of Chin on the login side of things to enable a seamless experience. This is very handy, for example, for headless sites. I mean, Dries said it in his Dries note that headless is a huge thing now and will even be bigger in the future. And I think this module really serves a good purpose if you have a headless site. You can also use it for a regular site, of course, to bring you a nicely styled login which fits into the ecosystem of Chin. It also works quite well with Claro for that matter. So even if you use Claro, you can use that module and it hook into Claro and we'll just, use the default Claro styles for that particular reason. Another module being the Chin Layout Builder. So shout out to Christian Wiedemann and his team. So this provides a very nice integration with Layout Builder. I think this is an issue Claro and Chin both, or like third-party themes face, that it's not nicely integrated with the theme currently. And to build or to bridge the gap until we have all the things into the theme ready, this module helps you with that. Another thing being Chin Gutenberg by Doxio, which basically provides you the same experience, just like plugging into the Gutenberg Drupal module and providing a better experience together with Chin. So, all right, so far so good. Let's quickly talk about some facts and figures, right? Drupal reports that there are more than 11,000 sites running on Chin already. That means that Chin is the most installed admin theme for Drupal 9, which is incredible if you ask me, and I want to thank you all for using it. But on the other side of things, we're still in an alpha state, right? Chin didn't make the jump to beta yet, to beta 1. And beta 1 was originally scheduled for Q1 2021. But as you might know, as of now, it didn't happen. But instead, you got regular alpha releases instead for bug fixing and improving things, which is good. But still, I rescheduled the beta 1 for Q3 2021. And I think you can guess what comes now, because it's October. Nope, that didn't happen either yet. Being said that, I'm really, like I have some features. We will talk some of them later in this talk, which I really need to be in before we move to a beta release. And so that is the reason why we're still basically left on the alpha state. But on the bright side of things, Chin Login has a stable release out now. So yay for that, right? And other good news include this one. Chin should be fully compatible with Drupal 10 already. So at least what Acquia reports with their deprecation status reports. A full disclaimer here, I didn't test all the features yet. I installed it, it runs. All the deprecations are solved by now. But yeah, there might be some things coming up along the way until Drupal 10 comes out, and we will fix that accordingly. Speaking of Drupal 10, this is a great transition to our next part of this talk, the future. So what will the future bring, right? So this is very exciting to me, and I hope it will also be very exciting for you all, because there are some really interesting things I want to share with you today, exclusively today, or firsthand today. So let's dive in. I know what you're thinking now. He is promising it again, the beta 1 release. But yes, I do. Beta 1 is coming real soon. I really promise. And there will also be a design refresh. So now you're thinking, Chin already looks good, right? But there will be a design refresh. So it will be a slight facelift, so nothing revolutionary, but rather the goal being simplify things where possible. I also have some screenshots to share with you, of course. So here you can see the node edit form. We will try to reduce shadows where they're unnecessary. I also moved things around where they should be. So one example being like the back to side feature, which is currently on the right-hand side in the secondary toolbar, which will just, like being moved to the left side where it belongs, decluttering the UI where possible, and also like using stuff like clearer indication of where we are for stuff like active menu item and some other like more design related topics. Also, like the color scheme integration will be further enhanced. So here you can see like the default Chin blue setting. We replaced like the so-called 50 shades of gray more with like the accent color shades we have in the Chin theme to make it a nicer appearance and also integrate better with like all the different color options we have in the theme. So another example here is like, with purple as example. Then we have another example how it would look like with the default red in Chin. Yeah, so it could look similar to this. So like the design work is not finished yet. This is just like a preview. Here you have green as well as example. So it's not the final design yet, but this is the direction we want to go. And you can also see how the colors react to the UI. You have more subtle colors for the background, which blend in with, like the primary colors. It just overall looks more beautiful. And as I mentioned, this is just a sneak preview. I hope you like the new design direction, and also stay tuned for more screenshots. I will share them from time to time on Twitter once we start implementing like the new design language in Chin. And yeah, so all right, let's move on. Drupal 10. So I mentioned it earlier that Chin should already be fully compatible with Drupal 10. But if there are things coming up that might break features in Chin, we will fix them down the road until Drupal 10 is ready for you to get hands-on and install, of course. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. We also want to extend the new entity form layout beyond nodes. So currently the new, like the node edit form is limited to nodes, and we want to extend that beyond nodes. So bringing it to media, to blocks, especially like the sidebar region, making more use of it throughout the UI in the theme. Further, we want to enhance the vertical navigation approach. So the vertical navigation approach is the default in Chin, and we want to make it more useful and easier to use. Here is an early mock-up I would like to share with you. So in this screenshot, you see that like the second level navigation is shown when, when it's expanded. But you also can already see like, like the levels below the second level, so the third level as well. This will enable easier navigation throughout like the menus. Menus will open on click rather than hover. It's not an overlay anymore. You can leave it open. You can close it, and then it will eventually open as overlay if you want to have that. In its collapsed state, you will have flyover labels to indicate the first level navigation icons, so better discoverability. And also the new default for the out-of-the-box experience when you first install Chin will be rather the expanded version rather than being the collapsed one, also for better discoverability here. It also allows multiple levels of menus. And did I mention that this concept is mobile first, which leads me to the next point. So this whole experience was with a mobile first thinking. So making it a seamless experience all over the devices, seamlessly from mobile to desktop, having the same navigation pattern, the same navigation structure, and being more useful and easier to use. We will also eventually finally integrate the collapse sidebar feature. I know I'm teasing this for so long, and there is also like a lot of work going on in the issue queue, and this will finally be integrated into Chin. So if you're on the entity form edit, it can look like this, right? And then if you toggle the sidebar, spoiler alert, the toggle is missing on this particular design, then you can just like hide the sidebar. So you have like a full-fledged experience of the content itself. This will also be very handy for smaller screens like tablets, where we potentially will just auto-collapse the sidebar into an icon or into a functionality where you can open and close it. So just to get it out of the way and make more room for content. This one was actually one of the UX feedbacks we've got. So that depending on either your language or the module integrations you're using with Jin, that the width of the sidebar is too narrow from time to time. So this feature will solve this issue by enabling even more flexibility, that users can resize the region of the sidebar and of the vertical navigation to their liking, and we will save it in, I don't know yet, in local storage or in a cookie, or even in you know, like in Drupal settings, which size you're using, and then it will just, you know, like respect that. Another feedback, or another UX feedback we've got is, it would be great to being able to choose the density of the layout. So as you might know, Claro, like from 7 to Claro, we moved on to make, or, you know, like to give certain elements more space, more room, more white space. Buttons are bigger, links are bigger, text are bigger. These are all accessibility related things we integrated to have like a better overall experience. But it can also be a helpful feature to choose the density in the future, right? So if you have a very tense layout with a lot of information going on, you can just, you know, like increase the density of the layout to showcase more information on the screen. Also, like due to some limitations, we had to implement a solution which might not work very well with certain modules in terms of the form actions. And we want to refactor that to being better compatible with modules which hook into the form actions. Another thing being like a refactoring task is we want to refactor the whole implementation of CSS and JavaScript. So it was never planned that Jin grows so big and into a standalone theme with so many features in the beginning. So this is actually being like an issue of scale of the project. And I think now is the time to do it right. So we will fix that by moving on to component-based CSS. So we only load the CSS for modules you're using. So example, like all the overrides we do for layout paragraphs will only be loaded if you actually use layout paragraphs, which makes sense, right? And so on and so forth. But we want, or we don't want to stop there. We also want to focus more on enhancing the developer friendliness. So with all these built-in options in Jin, with the 3 different toolbar options, and likewise more options will you know, like make its way into Jin, it can be very hard for a front-end dev to you know, like set all the right offsets for the toolbar, for example, in the front end, because you don't know if the user, if you enable user overrides, you don't know if he's using like the horizontal toolbar or the vertical toolbar. So we want to provide you CSS-free variables for offsets, for you know, like spacings, for the max content width on the node edit form, for example. So to have more flexibility to override things in the future. Spoiler alert, we already use a lot of CSS-free variables, so you already have quite some controls. In example, if you use the Jin custom CSS file, you can already override a lot of things in terms of variables in the theme itself. Another thing being right to left language support. So this is actually a very tricky one for me personally as an European. So we definitely need more help to make this happen from native speakers for sure. So last but not least, I'm very, very excited to share another idea with you. This is very exciting to me personally, and it's also a feedback I got a lot of times in surveys, that this is really missing in Drupal at all. And this is having a dashboard. So you heard it right. One of the missing pieces in Drupal today is a good looking dashboard, right? And of course, I already made a mock-up to please your interest. So here you go. It could look similar to this. It could include blocks for shortcuts, like the shortcuts you can set for your user profile, some statistics, stuff like the last edited content you did, maybe regional actions like translation status, status report information of your site. Maybe we can integrate with updates of Drupal, depending on the roles you have. I think you get the idea where we want to go with that, right? Like a nice and quick overview when you log into Drupal. Wouldn't that be a nice thing to have instead of landing to your user profile all the time? I think it would. And this for sure also needs a lot of, like backend development, where my skills are not the best in, as I'm a designer, which can just do some front-end coding. So I need your help on that for sure. All right, so let's wrap up a bit this talk. So I guess there was a lot of teasering, promising, and showcasing how the future could look like, right? I want to have a quick recap on the basic ideas. So, like having a best-in-class editorial experience, this is the goal I have. So it's no less than provide the best-in-class editorial experience. And I think we should focus more on the end user. And from a Drupal's perspective, these end users are editors and administrators, but still providing a great experience for site builders. Don't get me wrong. We want, like leave them alone in the corner. But I think for too long, we ignored somehow the content editors, which are our end users. And the whole Gin ecosystem is basically just like building up around this idea in providing a best-in-class experience. I'm also involved in the out-of-the-box initiative, and we also propose there like a content editor menu, which takes on the needs of editors also in the navigation structure. So that's also something we potentially could talk about in a future talk, what's going on the core side of things, because there is also a lot of things moving on with Claro, with like the out-of-the-box initiative and other things. Again, promising here, the beta 1 release will coming real soon. I still have to decide if the new design language will be part of that or not. I would like it to be so. But yeah, we will see how things go out in the next couple of months. You can download and use Gin already today. You can go to drupal.org/project/Gin. You can contribute, and we really need your help. So I do this almost entirely in my leisure time. And I think you can imagine that it's very time consuming with all these big ideas in my mind or in my head. And sometimes I also need more technical people, as mentioned before, where, like the technical boundaries of or limitations of my, like what I know are just like on the edge what I can do. So everyone is very welcome to start contributing towards the Gin admin theme. You can go to drupal.org/project/issues/Gin and start contributing towards Gin. Or if you don't have the time to contribute, or if you want me to spend more of my time on the ecosystem of Gin, you can also start helping out with sponsoring the development via GitHub sponsors or Open Collective for that matter. I also want to say thanks a lot to all the sponsors. So the main sponsors of the Gin admin theme being Factorial, Srian, Open Social, Addicto, and Unique. but also want to thank to all the individual sponsors who, like really support the work I do. So a huge thank you to all the people you can see here, and I hope I didn't forget any face there. But this wouldn't be possible without all of you. So give them a round of applause. If you have questions, you can either join the official Chin Slack channel on the official Drupal Slack, or you can write me a private message on either the Drupal Slack or on Twitter, for example. I'm always there if you have questions, if you have inquiries or other things. If you need help to integrate with your distribution or your DXP or whatever, hit me up and we will find a way to work together. All right. That's it for the presentation for today. Thanks a lot for coming. I hope you really enjoyed this talk and that you got a glimpse of my view and what's coming next to Chin. So a lot of things to look forward to. I hope you like the design direction and the new features I'm thinking of to bring in the future. And thank you for coming. All right. Do we have any questions? Let me check. So Sebastian asks, does Chin is fully compatible with paragraphs and paragraphs layout? Yes, it is. It is actually built around layout paragraphs. So Chin focused to improve layout paragraphs quite a lot. As if you ask me, the out-of-the-box experience of layout paragraphs is not the best. And Chin really further enhanced that experience of paragraphs and of layout paragraphs. So yes, it does. So next question, is the front-end editing option on the roadmap for Chin? Well, the front-end editing is part of Drupal core, right? So I think your question goes maybe more towards like integrating the front-end editing, like from the styling point of view in Chin. Yes, it is. This is for sure something we look into, the same as the layout builder, which is currently outsourced in its own module. But these are things we look into as well for the future, yes. Another question from Nicholas being, what are some of the hardest issues that are beta blockers right now? That's an actually, like beta 1 is for me a moving target. So, like the beta blockers we had for beta 1 are basically all of them are solved by now. But yeah, I always want more and more to get into that for beta 1, but maybe it's just like my, like my personal feeling what should belong to a beta 1. I think we could already label it beta 7 if I compare it to some modules out there. But yeah, I'm very picky in that regard. And but yeah, I will update. There is an issue on the Chin issue queue called beta 1 roadmap, which is after this talk now very outdated. So I will for sure in the next coming days update that issue for sure, that you have like an overview of what are the blockers for beta 1. So another question is, can you talk more about the user testing you did? Is there any more testing planned? Yes, of course. So user testing is always planned and will always be a part of the work we do. Chin also somehow functions as a test bed for Claro. I mentioned that earlier, that we upcycle some features from Chin to Claro. So Chin is just like on the edge of features we can get, and we test them. We also do testing. These are currently not open testings. You can see on the issue queue. We might want to change that for the future. And we gather like all this information to further enhance and optimize the layout, the UI, and yeah, to bring new features into Chin. Chin actually destroys table layouts. Will it be fixed soon? Does it? If yes, feel free to create like another issue on the issue queue for that. So we'll have a look at that. What do you personally prefer, layout builder or paragraphs layout? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that because I'm a core maintainer, but yeah, I actually prefer layout paragraphs more, but more because like, you know, like the sites I like to build are headless sites, and which misses like the direct integration into frontend. At least from a Drupal point of view, if you use something like Druxt, or we basically currently building our own stack of having like the editing functionality in our headless stack, then layout paragraphs might be the better options to go, but I might be biased on that because I use that all the time. Could you please repeat your early topic about issues with sub-theming? I didn't quite catch all of it. So sub-theming of admin theme is not officially supported at all. The problem being that an admin theme has a lot of overrides to libraries. For example, like you know, like drag and drop or models, and especially Claro currently has a lot of overrides. And as Chin builds on top of Claro, we have to do all the overrides Claro does as well. So we have to oversteer all the overrides. And once Claro changes something, we need to change that as well in Chin. Now being in core and getting into a stable state, it's not that hard anymore. But if you do your own sub-theme, you will also have to do all the overrides on your own, because otherwise some features will break and not work, like drag and drop and stuff like that. So I really wouldn't like, for me personally, to do sub-theming on an admin theme because it can be a very bad experience. But yeah, I mean, feel free to do so. Nobody does stop you. I'm just saying that it's not officially supported. Why should I use Chin instead of Claro? I think if you watch this talk, it should be a no-brainer why you should use Chin. Otherwise, feel free to use Claro. It's also a great theme. I'm one of the team members of the design system for Claro and a maintainer of Claro from the design point of view there. So I have no, there is nothing against using Claro. Maybe one benefit being it's in core, but maybe also being a downside being in core, because it's not as flexible to move on as quickly as Chin can currently. Another question is, now the Chin styling is working with REM, but if you are using the REM hack setting HTML to 62.5%, you shouldn't use that at all, by the way. But yeah, the Chin toolbar in your theme are buggy because the relativity. Any plans for this? There's no plan for this, not yet. I also don't see a reason, because I wouldn't use the 62.5% on body. It's a bad idea, to be honest, just to give you like equal numbers divided by 10. Because this will destroy other features in terms of accessibility. But yeah, I mean, currently there are no plans. If there is an outcry that we need this feature, we can have a look into it, of course. Will Chin make its way into core? I guess no, or it depends. I think features of Chin, as I mentioned, like Chin is a test bed for Claro. But it's its own theme, which you can use. So you don't have to worry that Chin will, you know, like dissolve in the near future. But we, from time to time, look at features which Chin implements, like navigation approaches, like leveled or more structured content, the sidebar, on the content overview, the reactive part of you know, like selecting multiple items, like the bulk select form, stuff like that, which we look into and maybe or maybe not upcycled into Claro. Also, like the the different levels we have in the design system, like the layers, is something we currently look into to bring or introduce to Claro as well. There will also be some more like layout things we want to change in Claro as well. So there is a connection going on between Chin and Claro, so they go a bit hand in hand. Also because of like Chin relates to Claro as a sub theme, or better say, Claro is the base theme of Chin, which it will stay that way. Good. Do we have? So content moderation integration. Yes, as I mentioned before, with the refactoring of form actions and stuff like that, the integration of stuff like the moderation, the content moderation module will be easier and better. So yes, we're working on that, but there's no current timeline on that because it all depends on availability, time, and so on. Good. Do we have more questions? Otherwise, from the time point of view, I think we're done. So thank you again, all, for attending. I will also tweet some screenshots you saw in the in this presentation. I will also tease some more screenshots in the near future on Twitter. And yeah, also like the presentation link you can find at the beginning of the chat. I already posted it, and hope to see you around. Thanks.